Hi, my name's not important, and welcome. If you're seeing this, then you've probably watched my recent teaser, though if you haven't, then I strongly urge you to view that first. As such, you know that I am an animator, but much more than that, I'm a storyteller. I've been very easily inspired by the things I experience for as long as I've had thoughts. Any and all things, really. It just so happens that the things I was brought up with in my formative years put so much emphasis on that storytelling quality I value so much. With the likes of Twilight Princess and Doctor Who taking up so much of that influence, stories that put so much emphasis on the visual and auditory details that it's really no wonder that animation turned out to be such a perfect medium for me to tell my stories, after spending half a decade trying to make it look presentable. All that said, what exactly is this story? The original description I'd heard for the term blood bond referred to a bond between two people so close that they would die for each other. This description came from, of all things, the secret codec call between Solid Snake and Mei Ling in Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Nice glamours, huh?
Snake, have you ever heard of a blood bond?
This concept was immediately captivating to me, but not just because of the text, but because of the mechanics. Work with me here, this is just how my brain operates. In Brawl, the Ice Climbers are a unique duo fighter where you control two characters at once, a main climber called Popo and a partner called Nana. As such, they can be separated and even knocked out separately. If Nana gets knocked out, then everything gets twice as difficult for the remaining climber. Thematically, this is already really interesting, but not as interesting as what happens if the main climber is the one who gets defeated. If Popo is knocked out while Nana is still on stage, Nana quite literally blinks out of existence. Obviously, this to me now is just a quirk of the mechanic. I was young when I saw this, however, drawing hasty conclusions where none existed. So how I interpreted this is a blood bond refers to a bond that is so strong they wouldn't just die for each other, but they would literally die without each other. This is the inspirational crux that formed the relationship between the characters I've been envisioning for the past 6 years, the true nature of which won't be apparent until the end of Act 1. Conceptually, though, you have to admit that it's captivating. They formed a bond that's so unbreakable that should one side come apart, they would both fall, and I don't just mean emotionally. I want to assure you now that every single individual part of this story is written out in full. All 4 acts are completely finalized, the novelized version in my notes reaching 49,203 words. With draft after draft after draft, I've meticulously honed each individual aspect until they're exactly how I want them. It's not perfect. For instance, there's still some lines in the prologue that I'm a little shaky on even after all this time.
Looks like it just couldn't handle my scale, eh?
However, what I am sure of is that I adore this story so much. I think it's amazing. I literally reread it over and over just because I enjoy it. But I've not been working on an average of 2 to 5 hours every day for the past 2 years just so you can take my word for it. It's going to be a slow start, but well worth the wait. If you've stumbled into my little space already, then I hope I can convey how much I appreciate you having enough interest to watch my teaser, and take even a slightly deeper look into my channel, especially if you're not part of my existing viewer base. My existing. Yeah, maybe I should address the elephant in the room. On watching the teaser, you probably picked up on the nature of the relationship between my two leads.
You were fucking vocal, though.
Making that clear was very deliberate. Yes, they're having sex, but that fact alone isn't where the distinction ends. It's a detail that is literally vital to the story. And I don't mean emotionally or thematically alone, though that's still going to be a factor. But the story itself could not take place without this aspect. Any more of an explanation would lend itself to a lot of glaring spoilers. but the way each and every component of the story, including the main character's sexual relationship, is woven into the plot and the characters and is very important to emphasize. Especially given how unorthodox explicit sexualization in the form of most storytelling is, or rather must be. I couldn't exactly imagine anyone other than truly independent storytellers being able to explore some of the things I've been able to. Did I always intend to upheave my own perception on storytelling conventions over sexual content when I started drawing lewd scenes? Well, that's never really the intention. Honestly, I've found that during the creative process, a lot of the time you just kinda take those opportunities when they come. I just wanted to tell cool stories and animate good scenes. In one of my early scenes, I wanted to experiment with lighting, so I had a guy light up a lantern with fire. But I didn't want to have to animate fire inside the lantern, so instead I made this little crystal that lights up when heated. Then I figured out that those come from the tops of mountains that poke through their equivalent of the ozone layer, get exposed to the radiation of the galaxy that forms these crystals that light up when exposed to heat. Then I decided that they light up when exposed to heat from other planets themselves being lit before dimming back down. And that became what the multiple suns in the sky are. The different planets losing their own light before being lit back up by the other planets in an endless cycle, powered only by a string of comets that fly in a fixed pattern, generating energy that bathes those crystals so they can be lit once again. There's a lot that I can do with this. Different days of different lengths, different forms of sunlight, their own celestial events that happen in a cycle, even volatile changes to the very particular balance that this galaxy is allowed to exist in. All because I didn't want to animate fire. When you create something, you don't conform your ideas to a rigid set of rules based on any reality. You form-fit the world to suit your story and simply find some way to make it work. I did the same thing with the aspects of sexualization. I wanted to depict certain ideas in my work, reasons for things to be the way that they are for the sake of the scene. That line of thinking eventually led to the creation of the Chimera.
I'm one of them, yeah. At least I'm the same as them. A chimera. Well, that's what they called us, anyway.
Chimera are a species manifested by this philosophy. Their original thesis spanning from a frustration with Pokemon. I'm seriously supposed to assume that every single Incineroar is a buff, gloating wrestler cat with the exact same distinctive personality, body structure, and temperament. That's not a species, that's a character. They'd be better off as individualized monsters if this is how they're going to be perceived. So, inspiration hit. What if I did design a group of monsters as the only members of their own species with their very own individual characteristics? How would that function? How would they come into being in the first place? How could I make a species like that so sexually active for the sake of my work?
My precious.
There's no way they could be naturally born, after all. Answering those questions is what eventually led to their development. The quirks of their biology, their history, and how it coincides with the history of my anthropological stand-ins in the natural-born musclid race. Some of the stories I've been able to tell because of these unique rules are honestly astonishing. I can't detail the chimeras here because of the reveals that happen in the upcoming story, though if you're familiar with my previous work, then there is a lot you can pick up regarding on how they function. I've been planting these seeds for a long time. Everything is connected. But hey, that's enough of me simply saying it. I'm a storyteller. It's my job to get to work and show it. If you're someone who's been following my previous work, thank you so much for showing me just how much I've been appreciated. If you're new, then I cannot express how much I appreciate you giving me even the slightest chance. If you're a friend, then I hope you know how much all of the support you've given me has meant all this time. Apologies for constantly waffling on about this stuff. And if you're my family, man, this must have been an awkward thing to watch. And thank you for being so proud, even when I have so little to show for it. Really, really good things are coming. You have my word. Thank you for watching. See you in like 2 years or whenever Act 1 gets completed. Ugh, 2 years might be a bit generous.